Today, it's Dana White versus the mixed martial arts media.
Is there a bigger pussy than Eddie Hearn?
Actually, I think there is, and I think it's the MMA media. That's right. Hear me out. The MMA media is terrible. They have like a love-hate relationship with Dana White. They love to ask him questions, and he seems absolutely disgusted to answer a bunch of them. But a few weeks ago, this is what Eddie Hearn had to say about the MMA media.
You're pretty critical of UFC media in recent weeks. How do you compare them to boxing media?
I just feel like, look, you at the end of the day, we give you access, right? So you can't take the piss, but you can push me on like if I say something that you don't think makes sense, I think it would be good for you to go, yeah, but hang on a minute. So like, for example, if you're asking me a question and I'm Dana White and you say to me, like, don't you feel that the UFC fighters are going to be very angry and almost completely bemused by Conor Benn getting $15 million for a 10-rounder on an undercard? And he goes, Pete, you should want people to make more money. I think it's a great thing for UFC fighters that Conor Benn's making $15 million. Next question. I mean, I'm sorry, that makes absolutely no sense at all. So I would expect you to go, what do you mean? How is that good for UFC fighters? Right, okay. Then another question might be, Jon Jones has come out with a massive Twitter rant where he's so disappointed he's not on the White House card. And Dana White goes, Jon Jones was never on the White House card. Never. He was never going to go on that card. And someone said, but they said that he was in negotiations with your team. Yeah, he was in negotiations to fight on that card. Everyone was. Next question. It's like, hold on. You just said he was never going to fight on the card. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you don't want to get slung out, and I would never sling you out anyway, but these are not like personal questions. These are just questions that you should be asking. But like, now, what you should be saying is, you should be saying, like, are you going to actually, considering the problem that you have right now, are you actually going to look at fighter pay in the UFC? Because I represent the UFC World Heavyweight Champion. I'm going to bite my tongue a little bit for now. But what I will tell you is his contract is a fucking disgrace, right? A disgrace. And I cannot believe the money that he is on. When you look at the commercial revenue that his fight would generate against a Pereira or against a Gain in a rematch, right? And honestly, if I'm Tom Aspinall, I'm looking at that contract, I go, I don't even think you should fucking bother me. But he wants to come back. He wants to rematch Gain. He wants to fight Pereira. He wants to defend his world heavyweight title.
I kind of agree on the situation. I mean, they ask him questions and he basically just shuts them down. They don't seem to follow up with any questions, even though they probably wouldn't even get an answer. But I mean, still follow up, have some backbone. I mean, here we go. Let's go back to Dana White's moment where he was asked about Jon Jones fighting on the White House card.
Dana, you talked about, you don't want to say what fight fell out, which is fair enough, but there is obviously...
Well, there's weird circumstances around it that we probably shouldn't talk about.
Okay. There is speculation, of course, that it's Jon Jones.
No,
right?
it's not.
Was Jon
Ever, which I told you guys 100,000 times, was Jon Jones even remotely in my mind to fight at the White House. I wouldn't. First of all, I've told you why I wouldn't do it. And number two, some guy with meta glasses on filmed him talking about his hips, that his hips are so bad. And I don't know if you guys saw that flag football game where he can barely run. Jon Jones he retired because of his hips. He's got arthritis in his hips. Apparently he's been, doctors say he should have hip replacement. So
okay.
Add that on top of all the other reasons that I wouldn't. The Jon Jones thing is bullshit. Okay. I'm not saying they weren't talking to Jon Jones and that Jon Jones wasn't interested in the fight. And what was even crazier is Jon Jones came out and was like, I'm in negotiations right now for the White House fight, after I had already sent a text to his lawyer saying, never going to happen ever.
Is it fair to say then Jon Jones is retired and this is the end of his time?
Yes.
Okay.
Very fair.
Okay, so they spoke to him, apparently offered him money to fight. I guess there's a miscommunication because Dana said absolutely there was zero chance he would fight on the White House card. But here's a tweet from Johnny Bones Jones. As he is known on X as Johnny Meat, he said, "Hey everyone, I wanted to address Dana White's comments from this past weekend because the truth matters to me and the fans. Dana, you were heated about why I'm not on the White House card, but let's clear something up. My team and I were actually negotiating with the UFC for the fight. Real negotiations. I even came down from my original number. And what was offered in return, I was lowballed. Yes, I have arthritis in my hip and it's painful, but that doesn't mean I can't fight. So let me get this straight. If I had accepted the lowball offer, suddenly my hip would be fine and I'd be on the White House card? That doesn't make sense. I even received stem cell treatment last week to get ready for the White House card, and training camp was scheduled to start today. I was preparing to be ready. I understand business deals fall through sometimes, but going publicly and saying things that aren't true isn't right. After everything I've given to the UFC, the years, the title defenses, the fights, hearing that I'm done is very disappointing. Especially when as recently as Friday, UFC was calling me, trying to get me to fight on the White House card for a much lower number. If the UFC truly feels like I'm done, then I respectfully ask to be released from my contract today. No more spins, no more games. Thank you to the real fans who know what's up. Bones out. Now there you hear it raked from Johnny Bones Jones' mouth or fingers as he typed it out. But there you go. Jon Jones says he was ready to fight on the White House card. And just a couple days ago, Dana was asked at the post-fight press conference from their UFC Fight Night in London what was up with Jon Bones Jones.
Talking about the White House card and how he wasn't offered $8 over $15 million and how he felt that the fight was worth more. So I just wanted to get your response to that, essentially.
Jon Jones tweeted that he was offered not $1 more than...
Jon Jones was never fighting on the White House card. How many fucking times I gotta say this? He was never fighting on the White House card. I literally have done two press conferences talking about this. These guys went out, found everything that they thought was available and possible, and then I picked the fights. There's no way in hell I was putting him on the card, no matter what the money was. Jon Jones was never gonna fight on the White House card.
And Jon Jones, known as Johnny Meat on X, responded with, was ready, willing, and physically able to step in. I was willing to take substantially less than the Aspinall ask, but they wouldn't budge $1 over $15 million. I felt like our fight was worth more. Of course, he was speaking about the fight that he wanted to have, along with the fans wanting to see it, Johnny Bones Jones versus Alex Pereira, but the UFC wouldn't make it happen, and now we get Alex versus Cyril Gane for the interim heavyweight championship on the line, and we don't get any Jon Bones Jones, which is super disappointing. But like Eddie Hearn said, the media just don't ask follow-up questions. How has no one asked Dana White as of yet why he hasn't released Jon Jones from his contract, or if he's going to release Jon Jones from his contract? He said Jon Jones has arthritis, he can't fight anymore. Then why doesn't he release him from his contract? Now we can go back to 2009 where the UFC banned Loretta Hunt, who was an MMA journalist, from all UFC events, and Dana White went on an absolute tyrant speaking about Loretta Hunt, using a lot of, let's say, slurs, homophobic slurs, a lot of F-bombs, but he banned her from UFC events. Now, she was allegedly banned from UFC events because an article she wrote, which basically detailed managers having to deal with Dana White and the Ultimate Fighting Championship at that time in 2009. Now, to go deeper into this, the ban stemmed from an article Hunt wrote for SureDog.com in March of 2009. In this story, she reported Zuffa, the UFC's parent company at the time, had notified several fighters' representatives that they would no longer be granted backstage credentials to sit with their clients on fight night. Now, Dana White has come out and said this is absolute BS. This never happened. He has denied it every time he was asked about it. Loretta Hunt has been blacklisted from UFC events since 2009, and she has never returned since. The Ariel Helwani situation. Now, if you've been an MMA fan for a few years, you know who Ariel Helwani is. And he basically won the Journalist of the Year at MMA Awards pretty much every single year since it's been in existence. He has a great show, great YouTube page. But at UFC 199, he broke the news that at UFC 200, Brock Lesnar would be coming back. In a tweet, Ariel Helwani said, Brock Lesnar close to finalizing a deal to fight at UFC 200. Now, Ariel actually tweeted that while he was at UFC 199, where Michael Bisping defeated Luke Rockhold to become the middleweight champion on a short notice fight. But after Helwani tweeted that out, he was escorted into the back, into Dana White's office, and Ariel Helwani had this to say about the meeting. I love this sport and this job with all my heart. Did nothing unethical. I reported fight news, that's it, then told we're banned for life. My longtime colleagues at EKC and at Ella Bose were also escorted out of the building with me. Sorry to report no post-fight coverage tonight. I was escorted out of the building by Zuffa staff before the main event. Credentials taken away. Didn't even see Michael Bisping realize his dream. Now, of course, Ariel Helwani ended up getting his credentials back a few months later, but eventually he just stopped going to UFC events. He has a post show on YouTube that he does after each pay-per-view event, or should I say numbered event now that they're on Paramount. So he actually broke news and had his credentials taken away by the UFC. Now, there are still some journalists that do ask questions, but like I said, there's really no follow-up questions. The UFC basically does whatever they want. They don't really get much pushback from the media, especially the ones at the post-fight press conference. That's probably why they're there, because they don't. I mean, again, I'll go back. Why has nobody asked Dana White why he has not released Jon Jones when he says Jon Jones will not fight again? I mean, release him from his contract if you don't think he's going to fight. Again, the UFC kind of holding people hostage in the UFC with these contracts. But there you have it. Dana White against the MMA media. He does not like them. Some of them like him. Some of them despise him. But nobody really asks him any tough questions or follow-ups. But hey, let me know what kind of questions would you like someone to ask Dana White. Let me know down in the comments and I will catch you next time.